1959, the year that changed everything. It was the year of the microchip, the birth control pill, the space race, and the computer revolution. The rise of pop art, free jazz, sick comics, the new journalism, and indie films. The emergence of Castro, Malcolm X, and personal superpower diplomacy. The beginnings of Motown, happenings, and the generation gap, all bursting against the backdrop of the Cold War, the fallout shelter craze, and the beginnings of Vietnam. It was a year when the shock waves of the new ripped the seams of daily life, when humanity stepped into the cosmos and commandeered the conception of human life, when the world shrank but the knowledge needed to thrive in it expanded exponentially, when outsiders became insiders, when categories were blurred and taboos trampled, when we crossed into a new frontier that offered the twin prospects of infinite possibilities and instant annihilation. A frontier that we continue to explore exactly 50 years later at an eerily similar turning point. It was the year that Fidel Castro took power in Cuba. Berry Gordy started Motown Records in Detroit. Allen Ginsberg recited Howl at Columbia. The Pioneer spacecraft blasted off. The dirtiest version of Lady Chatterley's Lover was published. Toyota and Datsun, now Nissan, made their American debuts. And Ford mercy killed the Edsel. The microchip was introduced. The first U.S. soldiers were killed in Vietnam. Frank Lloyd Wright's Guggenheim Museum opened. Martin Luther King went to India to study nonviolence. Jasper Johns and Robert Rauschenberg were shown at the Museum of Modern Art. And Searle sought approval to sell the first birth control pill, Enovid. In sum, a year when the world as we now know it began to take form. The 1959 graduating class of Paris High School is here assembled. As we look back on the past half-century, we see a world today with one superpower and local, national, and global achievements and accomplishments undreamed of in the history of the planet. We helped create this incredible shining city on a hill. This night we reflect. Congratulations and enjoy.
The following motion picture has been rated R. It is restricted to those over 17 without a parent or guardian.
Those memories of you still haunt me every night when I lay down. I'll always love you, little darling.
Paris was a little bit like Mayberry, if I had to think of something to compare it to. Good little town, almost no crime. The policeman just didn't have much to do except turn the stoplights on and off. And there weren't any class sex groups in Paris. The poor people were just like the rich. We didn't have rich people that I know about, but everybody was treated the same, which was a great place to grow up. You could have two pair of jeans, be wearing one, have one get divorced, and you were just as good as someone that had a bunch of. Arkansas was this little square with a courthouse in the middle, like any small town, and on Saturday, back in the 50s and 60s, the farmers came in on Saturday, and Paris was a big deal. You know, they did their shopping, and the kids were all there, and
The place to be in Paris on a Saturday, especially on Saturday evening, was around the square. A lot of people back in that time came to the square in Paris. There were some families that truly came into town to buy their week's groceries. The Paris Square was just a busy place, packed with cars, packed with people. But to walk around the square and see who was there and talk with people and be seen, I guess, was pretty important at one phase in Paris's time. Of course, back in part of our time, the two Rainey drugstores both had soda fountains. And to go to the Rainey drugstore and sit in a booth and have a dime cherry lime or something big like that was a big event for us. That was a fun event.
I have fond memories of Paris. It was a place where you could have a good time, and with Halloween you could walk all over town. There was no fear of anything bad happening to anybody. No real property damage done on Halloween. Just lots of candy.
There is more community spirit. And even where I live now in Russellville, it's a little larger than Paris now, but it's still got the small town spirit, community spirit in it. You know, it's the right kind of place to raise your children.
Football season, we used to ride our bicycles 8 miles out to Cove Lake, up and down the mountains. I couldn't make it up the first hill now. So we would ride our bike all the way out there, we could swim, and we'd ride our bikes all the way back to Paris, under the theory of getting in shape. And I'm sure it helped. But that was Cove Lake was also another wonderful social event. We had a nice pier out there then. Big pier you could jump off of and play tag and hurt yourself diving and things like that.
Cove Lake. In the summertime, that was just a great place to go to. And I remember in high school, whenever I worked for my father in the summertime, so several of us had jobs. Well, the boys, the guys, would go out to Cove Lake and spend the night. And then early in the morning, 6 o'clock or so, a car full of us girls would go out to Cove Lake and swim and have breakfast, come back and go to work. We spent a lot of time on that big wharf. We'd play hide and seek and games under that wharf. And that was wonderful.
There were 2 hospitals as we were growing up. One of them called the Jewel Hospital, the other one's called the Smith Hospital. I think probably the Jewel Hospital closed before we got out of high school.
Or Patterson's Cafe.
Yeah, I didn't talk much about that yet.
Patterson's
Cecil's
Cafe,
22 Cafe.
Cecil's 22 Cafe. Paul, of course, was in our class, and we would go out there, and they had probably booze and tables and first-class service, and we'd all meet there. They had pinball machines, which I didn't play, but lots of people did, and socialized. The one thing I remember doing at Cecil's 22 Cafe was one of the girls in the class above us. Jimmy, you may remember her name, but her dad and mother's car was a Pontiac with a straight 8 in it. She was a pretty girl. And I would go pull her coil wire. And she would come out, and I did this only 2 or 3 times because it wouldn't work forever. But she'd get out and she'd try to start it, and of course it wouldn't start. And I would go over and offer to look at the problem for her, and then I would plug it in, and she would give me a big kiss because I'd saved her life from her dad killing her for messing up her car. And it did work 2 or 3 times. I had to give up on that. Old City Park was a wonderful place to go, and the old lodge down there, the Veterans Lodge.
The Legion Hut.
Legion Hut. There was a swimming hole there, just in the creek. But a lot of swimming went on there. The Old City Park had antique stairs going up to the top of a ridge that you could climb and had a wonderful view. And at night you could go out there if you choose to, be by yourself with someone that you were
Wanting to be in the dark.
All right, Paris was situated at the foot of Mount Magazine and the mountains, such that for boys that want to grow up hunting and fishing, it was a wonderful place to be. And we enjoyed a lot of that. We actually could go out there and spend days at a time on home-built bunks and cooking over wood stoves, and it was a wonderful experience. We were out in the mountains all by ourselves where it got cold. But that was the kind of place Paris was. It was in the country.
We had one of the first stadium seating types of theaters that I can recall ever being in Paris. It was the Logan Theater. And every time the movie changed, we typically were there. Of course, the movie didn't change but a couple of times a week. But we grew up with most of us having gun smoke on us from all the westerns we saw there at the Logan Theater. And then we, that was, of course, was a big day place when we were in high school. It was either there or the drive-in. And there were a couple of local hangouts. One of them, it went by several names. It was a Dairy Queen at one point in time, and then there was another one called the Eagle Drive-In that was a little bit outside of town. And the big thing in the summertime when things were slow was to get in the car and drive back and forth from the Dairy Queen to the Eagle and back and forth to see just who was out and who was around and who you could talk to on the summer evenings. In Paris, to take a date, about the only places to go were either the Logan Theater or the 22 Drive-In Theater. I don't recall ever taking a girl out for a meal for a date. Now, there may have been some people who had more money than I did who did that type of thing, but to me, you know, of course, a date to the theater typically meant you were going to spend at least 70 cents on that girl.
Of course, Paris graduated a movie star, and he was actually in a movie, and we all piled into the movie to watch him. And there, at one point, he was in a group of kids in the background, and we saw him.
His name was Jim Bridges.
Jim Bridges, and he actually became a director.
He actually became a director.
After
directed like The Paper Chase and China Syndrome.
He was an outstanding individual in school. He wrote didn't he write the
I think he
Paris
wrote the
song?
senior play or something.
He wrote a play and wrote the senior song, or the alma mater, I guess. But he had a lot of talent.
James Bridges, featured works. In a private meeting at the Forrestal Building in July of 2007, United States Secretary of Energy Samuel Bodman made the following statement. With the exception of the Japanese bombings, the movie China Syndrome has had more impact on U.S. nuclear energy policy than anything else.
We had an interesting situation food-wise at our school. You could eat in the cafeteria, and as I recall, it cost 20 cents to eat in the cafeteria. And the food was good, and we were saying the other day, we wondered if on each table we could have a big jar or a big bowl of government surplus peanut butter and a big container of honey or syrup or molasses, and then back then you could get all the hot rolls you wanted, and we would eat the rolls with the molasses and the butter and the peanut butter on them, and that's how we tried to gain weight for football, was by eating a lot of that. If you didn't want to go to the school cafeteria to eat, or if you wanted to smoke, which was illegal on the school grounds, maybe 20 feet past the line where the school grounds ended was a little wooden place that we affectionately knew as the stand. And there they made hamburgers that probably were 75% bread and 25% meat. And you could buy a hamburger for a dime. And so if you wanted to save a little money, you could go there and have a hamburger at the stand by just stepping off the school grounds. And people went there to smoke. People went there to eat the hamburgers. Sometimes, if you really felt affluent, you could eat the 20-cent meal in the cafeteria and then walk to the stand and buy a dime hamburger just to add to your meal. That, of course, does not exist anymore. They don't have the stand anymore. That was sort of a unique situation. I remember one year that Mr. Harris, our principal, decided that maybe somebody would like to play horseshoes, and so they started putting horseshoe sets out on the grounds. And that caught on, and eventually they had a school-wide horseshoe tournament that took place just at lunchtime. And they came up with a bracket. You had to work your way through that whole bracket. I cannot remember who won it. I'm certain that I didn't make it far, but someone ended up being the king of horseshoes at Ferris High School. Mr. Harris was a big fan of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Now, I didn't say Los Angeles Dodgers. These were the Brooklyn Dodgers before they ever moved to Los Angeles. And there for a series of years, it seemed like they played the Yankees in the World Series every year. We were not allowed to have radios in class, but he would post a running score above his office door throughout each game.
I liked every one of my teachers.
Right.
And they were, as our class was, a close-knit group. One of them, Miss Faye Moore, was actually my cousin, and that made it good. I think that helped me to make that transition from the New Blaine group, although all the other New Blaine kids went through the same. I mean, they were just as happy as me on the transition. Miss Tina Daniels, I loved her because I loved math. She was my algebra teacher. Miss Mary Ellen Watson, who was the librarian, took me under her wing, and she really taught me a lot and was sort of a mentor for me all through school. And but all the teachers, I mean, they were good. I can't tell you one single one that I didn't enjoy being under their classes.
Oh, the teachers couldn't have been better.
We had a lot of good teachers. We really did, and we respected them more so than the kids do now. My favorite and thought was my best teacher was Miss Daniels. She was a math teacher, and I really respected her, and she was really a good teacher. But we did have a lot of good teachers, and we had a lot of good practice teachers. These young teachers would come in, such as Bentley Allen that you might have met, and Marlon Davis. They all came in. And
well, there was probably the only teachers that are still living were ones who came to our school when we were in high school, and some of them even came there as student teachers and then stayed on. And Bentley Allen, of course, was one of those that did that. And then Guy Fenner, who later moved on to Charleston, Arkansas, and became a superintendent of schools. Guy was at our school for a number of years. And Marlon Davis came as a student teacher and then stayed on as the business teacher. I took typing and accounting from him. And most of them, if they came there and married a local girl, then they stayed around. And we had at least 3 examples of that, those 3 that I mentioned that I can think of where that happened. We had, Paris had a long tradition of having a newspaper. And Mr. Buck Harris, our principal, typically did not teach a class, but he had a background in journalism, and so he would teach a journalism class. And the journalism class would be the staff for creating the newspaper. Our senior year, several of us signed up for journalism, but there were not enough people to actually have a class, and so there was no journalism class. But we wanted to have a newspaper anyway, and so he organized a group of us who were interested in having a paper, and gave us a little basic instruction, and we elected someone to be the editor, and it was Buck Johns. And so we did put out the Paris Eagle newspaper, and that paper did well and won awards at the state newspaper festival that year, and was very successful, even though we did not have journalism. We had a lot of people that were interested in writing, though. The yearbook was always a big thing, and I believe I need to be checked on this, but I believe that Ann Berry was the editor of the yearbook that year, and it was an excellent yearbook. To me, the value of a yearbook is how little white space there is. If it's got pictures, it's good, because that's what you remember. You don't remember the white space, you remember the pictures, and that was an excellent yearbook that year.
I wasn't athletic at all. I was the manager for the basketball girls. That's about as athletic as I was.
we really had, our big rival was Boonville. Boonville was, is the other half of the county seat of Logan County. And I can recall a time or two that they came to our school and painted the eagle that was over the entrance to the building. Now, whether anyone ever went to Boonville and did anything, I never ever heard of that. I'm sure that probably happened, but that was probably kept pretty quiet. But I do recall them coming to paint the eagle at our school. Of course, that really fired us up. We thought that was a real offense, and that we had to retaliate for that. And in most years, we did retaliate against Boonville. Not every year. There was one significant year when we were sophomores, but where that game ended in a tie. But our junior year and senior year, we took care of business and took care of Boonville. We made sure that was a high priority type of thing.
Honeycomb, honeycomb. Well, it's a darn good life, and it's kind of funny how the Lord made the bee, and the bee made the honey, and the honeybee looking for a home. And they called it a honeycomb, and they roamed the world, and they gathered all of the honeycomb in the one sweet fall, and the honeycomb from a million trips made my baby's lips. So honeycomb, oh, won't you be my baby? Well, the honeycomb be my own. Got a hank of hair and a piece of bone, they made a walking, talking honeycomb. Well, honeycomb, oh, won't you be my baby? Well, the honeycomb be my own. What a darn good life when you got a wife like a honeycomb. Honeycomb. And the Lord said, now that I made a bee, I'm gonna look all around for a green, green tree. And he made a little tree, and I guess you heard what then? Well, he made a little bird, and they waited all around until the end of spring, getting every note that the birdies sing, and they put them all in the one sweet tone.
Oh, has someone else told you about the trip? Okay. As long as I can remember, and it's a long time before our senior trip, everyone went to Rockaway Beach for the weekend. So all these years we look forward to our senior trip because they come back and tell us what a good time they had, and it was a blast and all this. So we were all hyped up for our senior trip. The class before us misbehaved. For shame. So, I mean bad. We paid the price. No more Rockaway Beach. Seniors went on a one-day trip to Hot Springs, Arkansas. One-day trip. So we still remind 58 class. 58 class. What they did to us.
Well,
And everybody since. No one could go on an overnight trip.
As I recall, they allowed us just to wander around the historic part of Hot Springs, the older part of Hot Springs, and there were a variety of shops and places you could go, and it's very tourist oriented, so there were a lot of interesting places we could go. Then I recall we went to a beach area that we had rented, and of course the weather I think that day was probably about in the 50s, but a few people got out there and water skied anyway. And we had a picnic in some area, and on the way down we had stopped at Nimrod Dam. You probably saw that as you came by. We stopped there and viewed that, and the rest of it was just sort of free time and wandering around. You could go to a movie, you could go bowling, you could whatever you could find, you could do. It all had to be done in one day. We had to go and be back in one day. So we've never forgiven the class of 1958, nor have we ever allowed them to forget about it. I think they have a certain amount of pride that they managed to do that to us. But it's great being back together for our 50th high school reunion. It's hard to believe that we've all lasted this long. It seems like only yesterday that we were graduating from Paris High School. I think back on those days with great fondness. We had wonderful times together. We really had a special class. We had lots of really strong students, lots of very talented people. We main thing was we liked each other. We got along well. And of course we grew up in a community that supported us, and we grew up with parents that supported us, and that was hard to beat as far as being a teenager. You can take people out of Paris, but you can't really ever take Paris out of people. And part of what we are today and what we will always be is due to Paris and Paris High School.
1/2 century ago, we marched out of those hallowed PHS halls to make our mark, and a remarkable set of accomplishments followed. We went to work, we went to college, and we went to war. We fought in Vietnam. We became teachers, farmers, doctors, nurses, lawyers and engineers, artists, accountants, and activists, officers in the military, and members of the business community of all stripes. We traveled the globe. We lit up the town square, and we delivered tools while singing opera. We created families. We laughed as we welcomed our kids and grandkids into our lives, and cried as we buried our loved ones. We have experienced triumph and tragedy. As we approach our 70, we reflect on lives well lived. But as we enter the autumn of our lives, we look back with even greater respect and reverence at our special parents who created the halcyon opportunities for we privileged few. We have learned many things in the course of our lives, but heartfelt appreciation of our parents is perhaps the most significant. It was genuinely comforting when the rest of America acknowledged what we already knew. Our parents and their peers were truly the greatest generation. So it is fitting and proper that on this special evening, as we bask in warm friendship as our separate paths from all over this planet reconverge in this historic spot, it is fitting that we offer special recognition to those who sacrificed so much for us. The greatest generation, our parents. Congratulations to all those gathered here on this, the golden anniversary of Paris High School, class of 1959. Godspeed.